So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chinenye and I am a PhD student in the HRM program. So today I'll be presenting on the topic exploring factors associated with attrition from the longitudinal follow-up of older adults using data from the global longitudinal study of osteoporosis in women, Hamilton cohort. So this is a manuscript in development under the supervision of Dr. Lehana Tabani and with the support of my other supervisory committee members that are named here. For the presentation, I'll be following this outline. And now the background. So longitudinal studies are prone to attrition, which is simply the loss of study participants, given that the study design requires repeated collection of data from participants over time. And this could be problematic as it not only causes loss of power because of diminishing numbers of participants, but the losses could also threaten the internal and external validity of the study if it's selective. That is, if those who drop out from the study are different than those who remain or complete the study. And selective attrition is a serious issue in longitudinal aging studies, given the susceptibility of older adults to adverse experiences like functional decline, cognitive decline, other illnesses, hospitalization, and even death that could affect their ability and availability to participate in or complete study follow-up assessments. However, existing evidence suggests that the baseline status of participants may predict how long they remain in the study. For example, participants who have lower cognitive function at study entry may be more likely to drop out of the study. And the magnitude, pattern, and risk factors for this participant loss may differ based on the clinical area or study design factors like the frequency of follow-up, the mode of survey, or even participant burden, and other within study peculiarities. And if these risk factors for attrition are related to risk factors for outcomes of interest, then it could potentially bias study findings. So it's important to examine this issue in cohort studies to guide the analysis and interpretation of study findings, as well as inform retention strategies for future aging studies. So the objective of this study is to explore the extent of attrition pattern and the factors that are associated with it in the GLOW study. Now the methods. So the GLOW study was a multi-site prospective cohort study that examined the risk factors and management of osteoporotic fractures in postmenopausal women who were recruited from physician practices in Hamilton. And the participants were followed up for 6 years and were mailed study questionnaires annually. Where there was no return, they were contacted by study personnel. The primary outcome for this study was all-cause attrition, defined as time from study enrollment to the last point a participant was observed in the study, regardless of the specific reason for attrition. We also had a secondary outcome, which was time to non-death attrition. She defined the same way as the primary outcome, but excluded attrition resulting from death. We included the following variables as covariates in our analysis. For statistical analysis, the baseline characteristics of participants by attrition status were described as frequencies with percentages and mean standard deviation for categorical and continuous variables, respectively. And for the regression analysis, so the pattern of missingness created by participant loss in the data set was generally monotone. So that is, if a participant missed a wave, they didn't return for subsequent ones. So therefore, we consider time to event analysis the most appropriate for the data. So we fit cost proportional hazard models with robust standard errors to account for possible within physician practice clustering for both the univariate and multivariable analysis. We checked the proportional hazard model assumptions by both graphical diagnostics based on the Schoenfeld-Rischfeld and a statistical test. So to assess the robustness of our study, of our results, we've performed sensitivity analysis using age scale as an alternative time scale, in which the time origin was the age at study entry. So this time scale takes into account that participants who enter the study at different ages have varying risks for the event, in this case, attrition. We'll use multiple invitations to handle missing covariate data, assuming that the data were missing at random. Now the results. So we had about 4,000 participants enrolled in the GLOW study, and their average age was 69 years. There were more women who were educated up to high school or less, and more who were white. So generally, the participants had relatively subjective good health status at baseline. So this is a flow chart of the study participants from enrollment to the last wave of follow-up, showing participants' losses due to death and non-death causes. And by the end of the follow-up, we had about 30% attrition, 26% due to non-death causes, and 4% due to death. From the graph here, we can see that attrition rate started off relatively low at first follow-up, decreased slightly over the second and third waves, then spiked up at the last wave to for both all-cause and non-death attrition. And the dropout at the tail end was double the losses observed over the 3 preceding waves of data collection. And this we attribute to a gap in data collection between the 4th and the 6th year of the study due to funding challenges. So in the regression analysis, increasing age, smoking, hospitalization, and being frail or frail were associated with increased hazards of attrition, while increasing health-related quality of life was associated with lower hazards of attrition. So while educational status did not show a statistically significant association with all-cause attrition when time on study timescale was used, it was associated with non-death attrition with the same timescale, all-cause attrition and non-death attrition with the age timescale. Then an additional factor, alcohol use, showed a statistically significant association with non-death attrition in the age timescale. Now the conclusion. So based on our results show that the attrition rate was moderately high in the GLOW study. However, for a study that with a relatively shorter follow-up time, at that rate of dropout, if the follow-up time is extended, it's likely that the attrition rates could approach higher rates as were reported in studies with longer observational period. We also found that the pattern of attrition was not consistent across the waves of follow-up, which we attribute to gap in data collection at some point in the study. And when participants drop out, it was typically terminal. That is, they did not return subsequent meals follow-up survey. So our study also showed that attrition was selective with respect to some participant characteristics, including age, frailty, health-related quality of life, hospitalization, smoking, and education. And we'll say it appears that poor health status is a strong predictor of participant loss, with most measures of health status in the study indicating an increased risk of attrition at poor levels of these health variables. So analysis of the data may be biased towards those who are healthy enough to complete the study. So based on this, based on these findings, we recommend developing and incorporating strategies to ensure maximum follow-up rates possible attained as participant loss that could threaten the validity of the study could occur. For example, the spike in losses at the end of the study due to gap in data collection highlights the importance of consistent follow-up. We could also use employ strategies like oversampling of participants at greatest risks of attrition. For example, individuals with poor health status at baseline. And for these participants, we could also include positive respondents who could provide a buffer against attrition when the participants are too ill to continue the study. Attrition leads to missing data problems for sure. And as shown in this study, the missingness is not random, rather is associated with the baseline characteristics of the participant. Typically, participants who are lost to follow-up are excluded from the analysis based on assumption of random loss. So we recommend treating participant loss in longitudinal aging studies as non-random and using appropriate statistical methods for analysis. So this study extensive evidence of attrition risk factors from a fairly large and never been studied cohort, and included new variables in forms that have not been previously well investigated in the attrition literature, like frailty. The analysis also examined potential risk factors for different types of attrition and utilized different time scales to strengthen our conclusion. However, the major limitation of the study is limited generalizability to more racially diverse populations and gender, as our study cohort was predominantly white and involved only female participants. These are my references, and thank you for listening.